So the first question I want to ask you is, how many of you are single in this room? Please show by a show of hands. Great stuff. And how many of you are happily taken? Wonderful. So just to clarify, for those that are happily taken, I mean you could be in a situationship, a relationship, a marriage, you name it, right? So, well, because this week is Global Entrepreneurship Week, we are instead going to discuss entrepreneurship, which is essentially a relationship with a growth mindset. So I want to speak to the single people in the room first. In entrepreneurship, we refer to you as solopreneurs. This word first came about in 1992 and has since been defined as a business owner who organizes, manages, and assumes the risk of a business without the help of a partner. Solopreneurs essentially operate remotely, and so their work requirements often consist of an internet connection, a laptop, and at least a good enough looking shirt for video calls, right? The type of pants or shoes that you wear is up to you. Essentially, staff meetings are held by yourself to ensure that all the hats that you wear operate as they should. Entrepreneurs, on the other hand, tend to have more intricate workplace requirements. And so this form of entrepreneurship involves managing a team or organizing staff that ensures that your day-to-day operations are taken care of. Entrepreneurs essentially get to move from being their own content creator, legal advisor, and accountant, where the job takes on a more strategic role. There are obviously immense benefits to both forms of entrepreneurship. On the one side of the entrepreneurial rainbow, it can be a dream come true and an adventure all at once, ensuring that you're able to create a business on your own terms, avoiding the proverbial red tape that comes along with managing a more traditional business, and ensuring that you are able to implement and execute your strategies as you envision it. On the other hand, it can be an isolating journey and one that moves you only to a certain point. Debilitating at times when market or client rejections appear as a personal attack on your character, and the feeling of crawling into a ball and weeping like a baby appears, always second-guessing yourself and wondering if the dreamer in you deserves to create from a place of abundance. It is a tug of war between believing that courage is the shadow of the illusion of fear. And so working independently starts to feel as though you're fighting the enemy, the system, the clients who fail to recognize that your value far exceeds their investment. You start questioning your own mind. And so many entrepreneurs often start with running their businesses solo and later hire people to run their day-to-day operations. For the purpose of this discussion, we'll be focusing on the independent owner who was bold enough to create a business on their own terms. So let's talk through some of the statistics. So statistics tells us that around 34% of our economy's GDP is generated through small businesses. And yet, as with any relationship, there are some challenges with entrepreneurship. The International Finance Corporation shows us that 70% of formal small businesses in South Africa fail within the first year, compared to 20% in the rest of the world. It's easy to focus on these factors because they are true and there's plenty of evidence to confirm this. It's even easier to believe that because of these statistics that your chances of entrepreneurial success decreases. Yes, factors such as finance, a lack of skills or sufficient technology are contributors to this high failure rate. But what about mindset? We did speak about this relationship with a growth mindset, right? Could our minds hold enough power to contribute to this high failure rate? Do we need to look deep within ourselves to come up with ways to better relate with this growth mindset? So in researcher and psychologist Carol Dweck's book titled Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, she studied hundreds of students over 30 years to answer this question. Dr. Dweck found that intelligence, as in any other permanent trait, can be improved provided you put in the necessary effort to do so. And the focus of the study, failure. how people coped when faced with failure. Her research started by testing this theory on a group of grade 3 students, where she presented them with a challenging puzzle. She started with the easier puzzles and then later moved on to the more challenging ones. One child who participated while completing the challenging puzzle shouted, "I love a challenge." What she learned from this was that not only were the students not discouraged by failure, they didn't even think that it exists. And by doing this, they were able to complete the puzzle. So, in entrepreneurship, what do you tell yourself when you face rejection, self-limiting beliefs, and self-sabotage? How could you fall in love with failure? Yes, you heard right. How could you fall in love with failure and use that love to turn failure into a gift? And more importantly, what are the consequences of thinking that where you are in your entrepreneurial journey is something that can be developed? What would happen if the view you adopt of yourself can be cultivated, such as the views of someone with a growth mindset? Even Alfred Binet, the inventor of the IQ test, found that education and practice can bring about fundamental changes in intelligence. So how does the inventor of a test that was supposed to give us permanent direction of who we were born to be find that in actual fact we can be anything, provided we put in the necessary effort to do so? This goes to show that the view you adopt of yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. It can determine if you create the business you envisioned and whether you accomplish the things you value. Growth mindset says that Rome wasn't built in a day, where the fixed mindset says, well, if Rome wasn't built in a day, then it wasn't meant to be built. In a fixed mindset, fear devalues effort, whereas in a growth mindset, the focus is on the process. How do we then move from seeing failure to seeing failure as a catalyst to success? The simple answer is by looking inward. Renowned psychiatrist Carl Jung says that those who look outside dreams and those who look inside awakes. Carl Jung is also one of the creators of the Myers and Briggs model, also commonly known as the personality test. It's a test that gives you insights into whether you're an extrovert or an introvert and how to use that knowledge to reach your full potential. Ultimately, growth mindset is cemented in the belief of change. So 4 years, growth mindset is cemented in the belief of change. 4 years ago, I had to look inward and decide to fail forward. I was in corporate for 6 years before I made the decision to start my own marketing agency. My work circumstances at the time moved me to create the career of my dreams. I enrolled into my first business coaching course, and suddenly everything seemed unfamiliar. I didn't have the comfort of a salary anymore. I didn't have a team that was assigned certain tasks. I didn't have a boss that could take the hit if I made mistakes. In the entrepreneurial world, there was a way to do things that everyone knew. Everyone knew this except me. Everyone had more discipline than I had. Everyone knew how to stretch their rand. Everyone knew how to pitch themselves to potential clients. Everyone knew this except me. I have owned 5 businesses, and I've succeeded at 2. And my ability to succeed came from the learnings I took from the 3 failed businesses. Similarly, Adaptive Insights was rejected by 70 venture capitalists before they received funding. These VCs thought that no one would start storing data in a cloud. I have moved from solopreneur to now being able to employ my own staff. I have built a business without funding, just a laptop, an internet connection, and a good-looking shirt. From having no experience as an entrepreneur to having coached close to 100 entrepreneurs. If I had stuck to my fixed belief that I was just not meant to be an entrepreneur and that I was better off in the corporate world where I had to focus on someone else's dream, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am. So my question to you is, what action will you take towards your dream? Will you continue on the same road as when you walked in here, or will you choose to fail forward? So dear singletons and my happily taken people, I implore you to realize your power by turning failure into a gift. And always remember that you have the power to fail forward. Thank you.